my nerds, how you doing?
Hi everyone, sorry about the hiatus.
Yes, Stormy had a relapse, and move this way a little bit.
Oh yeah, you're right, that's much more comfy.
Stormy had another relapse.
She can't catch a break.
She tends to get really sick towards the end of the year a lot, and she got a really, really bad cold. After she interrupted our last podcast, we ended up having to take her to the hospital the next day, and she was still quite ill last Friday, so we decided just to nix it and take care of her. But now we're back,
and she's a lot better.
And she's actually at preschool today, which is why we're doing this when it's daylight.
That's right.
And we're kind of awake, although you're kind of a sleepyhead today.
I'm a little sleepy.
Yeah.
I think it's because it's spring here in Australia.
Yeah.
And because it's now a different season here in Armidale,
I
get hay fever. Yay! So I feel blocked up and, drowsy.
Yeah, and guess what? You actually see me out of pyjamas if you're watching the video. Like, I've got jewellery on and everything, dude. I even have a watch.
Which Stormy's always playing with, incidentally.
Yeah, I'm killing this adulting game today. So, ready to find out who we're doing today?
Yes.
All right, let's get into the murder, guys. So we're doing Alexander Pearce.
Oh, so we're going back to the convict era.
We're going back to, like, the history of murder in Australia. So, for those that don't know, Alexander Pearce is the first recorded cannibal in Australia. So that's quite fun.
The convict era was quite rough.
But my legacy came through all right. I'm convict stock, by the way.
From the first fleet.
Yes. But if you guys want to hear about that, let me know down below. I don't mind talking about it. It's fine. But we're going to get on to this guy. So Alexander Pearce, he was born in 1790 in County Monaghan in Ireland into a Roman Catholic family. Before transportation, he was a farm labourer, and he was convicted of the theft of 6 pairs of shoes and was sentenced to 7 years in the colonies. So in Australia.
Numerous petty crimes like that could end up with you in jail and or transported.
I think my great whatever grandfather, he went all out and stole a freaking sheep.
And with Ireland, transportation was a convenient way for England to deal with troublesome renegades and political rebels.
It wasn't just Ireland; it was Scotland as well.
That's true, but Pearce was born in Ireland,
But I'm just saying it does encompass a lot of that northern Britain area.
That's right. The rest of the Isles.
Yeah. Because it was all Britain then, wasn't it? Because I know Northern Ireland is separate at the moment.
Yeah, but that wasn't until the 20th century.
Yeah, so they were all Britain at that point. Okay, cool. Thank you.
That's correct. The unification was in 1801.
I wasn't sure. So I just wanted to clarify that they
were
all Britain then. Alright, so he was transported on the Castle Forbes to the penal colony. I'm going to have really big problems with that word today. I can see it.
It's all good.
On Van Diemen's Land, which is modern-day Tasmania. So the little island at the bottom of Australia, that's where he got sent.
New South Wales and what was then known as Van Diemen's Land, now Tasmania, they were major hubs for the transportation system to Australia that started in 1788 and lasted on and off until 1868, ended in WA. That had been the last part of Australia, the last future colony for, I think, at least a decade. I think we touched on this in a previous episode of our podcast.
I think so.
But prior to the 1840s, there was quite a thriving transportation of convicts from Britain to the
they
colonies.
found paradise and decided to go, let's send our criminals, they'll be fine. So he got sent over. He was, that was in late 1820. He got sent over here. On the 16th of May, 1822, he got done with theft of 2 turkeys and 3 ducks from the property of a Matt Slines.
Mm-hmm.
He got 50 lashes and hard labour for 14 days, and it was confined at night. Because back then, they weren't confined at night. They just did their thing and did their punishment. Blah, blah, blah.
So it was that late after he was transported that we had his first known offence here, 1822.
1821.
Yeah.
1820. That was in May of 1821.
Cool.
17th of September 1821. He got drunk and disorderly and absent from his lodging, so he got 25 lashes. So that's 75 lashes so far.
Yeah.
16th of November 1821, got drunk and disorderly and stealing a wine glass, not a glass of wine, a wine glass, from the property of Peter Copeland. He got 50 lashes, so that's up to 125 lashes.
1 lash is horrendous enough, let alone...
Obviously, it's not working.
Obviously.
29th of November, so 3 days later, he got done for stealing a wheelbarrow and got another 50 lashes and 6 months hard labour on the jail gang. So he got 175 lashes in less than a year. On the 6th of July 1822, he took off into the woods for a while and forged an order with intent to defraud. So they had paper orders that they had to give people, and he obviously forged one to let him be stupid.
To be stupid.
Yeah, be stupid. So he was sent to Sarah Island in Macquarie Harbour for the remainder of his original sentence. Now, in Tasmania, Hobart's... I'm trying to flip it in my head. Hobart's here for you guys, and the Macquarie Harbour is here. It's across the island from each other. Yeah. So that was in July. In September of 20... So 3 months? 4 months. 3 months between July and September?
July to August, September.
No, 2 months.
2 months.
2 months, jeez, I can't even count.
It's alright.
2 months after he got to Sarah Island, he escaped with 7 other convicts. So there was Alexander Dalton, Thomas Bodenham, William Kennelly, Matthew Travers, Edward Brown, Robert Greenhill, and John Mayer, along with Alexander Pearce. And they all just picked up and took off into the woods. They were working on the east side of the harbour, so the harbour closest to Hobart, which will come into... They head to Hobart. They head there. Yeah. And Greenhill, who was friends with Travers, so they were like a twosome of we're the bosses, appointed himself the leader because he had an axe. So about...
That's all it takes.
It does. That's all it takes.
Yeah.
You have the weapon and you can beat up people, you become the boss.
Whoever makes the gold and whoever has the weapons makes the rules.
Yeah,
because they're in the power resides.
Well, you change the axe to a chain, and that's the chain of command that I hit you with until you figure out who's in rotten command. So,
that's a very picturesque...
I love Firefly. I got that from Firefly.
Yes. Have you mentioned before on this channel, on this platform, that you're a brown coat?
I have no idea. I can't remember.
Well, now people know you're a brown coat.
Yeah, I'm a nerd.
Yeah.
So about 15 days into the escape, the group was starving, obviously.
Obviously.
And ended up drawing lots or straws. Short straws, long straws. You know, Armageddon, where they pick who stays with the bomb. To determine who would be killed and eaten. Thomas Bodenham drew the short straw and was killed with the axe. At this point, Dalton, Kennelly, and Brown had enough and got the fuck out of Dodge.
Mm-hmm.
Literally, I wrote, got the fuck out of Dodge on my notes.
Oh, wow, you did too.
Kennelly and Brown ended up getting back to Macquarie Harbour, but Dalton died of exhaustion, apparently. For those that aren't watching the video, I'm doing funny quotation marks. Apparently died of exhaustion.
Mm.
So this left Greenhills, Travers, John Mather, and Pearce. So there's only 4 of them left. One's dead.
Pickles.
2's dead. And 2 have gone back to, hey, I'm back to the jail.
Because jail's preferable in this context.
To be eaten, I would suggest. guess so, but I have not seen. I've seen jails that harrow back to that time, and maybe not so. They seem pretty awful. But these people seem pretty awful for what they did. So, this was those four dudes with Greenhills and Travers acting as a team. So Pearce decided that he'd go with what way the butter looked better on the toast, and went with Travers and Greenhills and ganged up, and Mathers was the next one to be killed and eaten.
Yeah.
But Pearce got really lucky in the fact that Travers got bitten by a snake. Now, Greenhills demanded that they carried him for 5 days, but Travers' health declined, and Greenhills ended up killing him, and they ate him. But this dude's had poison in his body for like 5 days. Now, I'm not a herpetologist. I don't know nothing about poison. But you would think that if it killed him, that I probably wouldn't be eating him.
Depends on what parts of the anatomy you choose to consume.
I think it'd be pretty much all through his bloodstream, which pretty much goes through all of your anatomy, as far as I know.
We'd have to check that with a professional, or we might be able to ask our son.
Yeah, he knows a lot
about that. Right?
Yeah. But I'm just thinking, like, poison much. I'd be hesitating.
Yeah. I probably would be too.
Yeah. So Pearce and Greenhills then started like this cat and mouse game of who was going to kill who and blah 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 blah.
Yes.
And the whole saying of you got to sleep sometime. So Pearce ended up getting the axe from Greenhills, killed him, and ate him.
Mm-hmm.
Then he set off again towards Hope. After he ran out of Greenhills to eat, he Pearce raided an Aboriginal campsite and took their food.
Yeah.
And then he stole sheep from property. But his luck held because when he was discovered eating a lamb, it was actually an old friend of his that found him. Because that's just how things go in the old country. It's not even the old country, it's the olden times.
It's our new world, but in the early 19th century.
I'm an idiot.
No, you're not. You're just, struggling to,
I'm struggling today.
find the appropriate analogies and concepts.
English is hard.
English is hard.
Was an old friend, yeah. So he was inducted into a sheep stealing gang of bush rangers because that was a thing to do back then.
Mm-hmm.
Which was completely illegal, by the way. Bush ranging was illegal completely. And he was caught with William Davies and Ralph Churton. The two that he was caught with were hanged for bushrangering and escaped from a military escort. So, obviously they were being escorted from one jail to another or something like that and took off. And then went on bushrangering.
That's the technical term.
That was the technical term. You have to get that going. Yeah, bushrangering. So Pearce was on the run for 113 days, and a little less than half was in the wilderness. So this includes his bushrangering and all that. While locked up in Hobart, because they obviously were closer to Hobart than they were to Macquarie Harbour when he was captured, he confessed to the Reverend John Knotwood, who was the magistrate and the chaplain, because there was no separation of church and state then.
You also have limited demographics to draw
there
from
was
and distance.
People, so they just had to go with what they had.
But potential conflicts of interest are overlooked.
Oh yeah,
because of the realities of the situation.
Yeah. Well, Knotwood didn't believe Pearce with the story about the cannibalism and whatnot, and Knotwood convinced himself that the rogue convicts were bushrangering like Pearce was. So he sent Pearce back to Sarah Island, as you do.
As you do.
Because he got, like when you're out on parole, if you get busted, you go back to jail. He just wasn't legally allowed to leave. After returning to Sarah Island, Pearce immediately started planning another escape with another convict.
Of course he did.
Thomas Cox, who was a young convict.
Mm-hmm.
So could quite easily be quite influenced quite readily and that kind of thing. They were only in the road for 10 days in this case. So, when he was captured, he confessed that he killed and ate Cox, but was not believed, again, because Why would you?
Hmm.
Shut up. Watch thing. But he wasn't believed until human flesh was found on his person.
That'll do it. That's
Yeah.
hard to explain away.
Yep. Pearce killed Cox after an argument that Cox couldn't swim the river, and he became a hindrance for Pearce to escape.
Yeah.
So it's just like, kill you. Take your venison. Wait, what? So Pearce made 3 confessions all up. One to Knockwood, which is the one that like everyone gets all the information from. That was the one that he confessed to about the main killings. One to Lieutenant Cuthbertson, commandant of the Macquarie Harbour after the second escape. So, he confessed to him that he killed Cox and ate him, blah, blah, blah. And then one to Father Philip Connolly, a Catholic priest, the night before his execution. This was also a big one, and this one was also published in the Hobart paper. Whatever it was called. I can't remember. There were inconsistencies.
The Hobart Gazette or something like that?
Something like that. But there were inconsistencies between all 3 of the confessions. Which wouldn't have helped with the believability factor.
No.
But he was found with flesh in his pants pockets of Cox. So he got that. So Pearce was sent to Hobart and appeared in front of the Supreme Court of Van Diemen's Land, which was only newly established, where he was tried and convicted of murdering and cannibalising Thomas Cox. Even though it was stated that he did not look like a cannibal, what does one look like?
Maybe it had a racial and ethnographic basis.
He was also tiny. Like, he was a small man.
Yeah, I've heard that. He was apparently rather petite by the standards of, well, his demographic in particular, the convict demographic in Van Diemen's Land at the time.
But what does a cannibal look like? Seriously. He was found to have pieces of Cox in his pocket, even though he still had food as well. So he didn't kill him out of necessity like he did with the others. He killed him because he became a pain in the ass.
And just save him for later.
Yeah, why not?
For
like, you think about
a
it.
special occasion.
Wait, you think about it. He's planning. He's planning on hopefully being out in the wilderness for however long and stuff. So, like, when you got food, you keep it until you need it. That was disgusting.
I know. But you really can't talk just in terms of your life.
No, I know. I've never eaten anyone, though.
No, I'm very glad to hear that.
His guilt was beyond doubt. And
Neither have I. Well,
that's good too.
Thank you.
Yeah. And he confessed to the crime. So he was definitely, buggered. He was the first felon to be tried before the new Supreme Court, and the first confessed cannibal. See, that's how new the Supreme Court was. He was the first one to be tried before them.
Wow.
Yeah. And he was the first confessed cannibal to go through the Tasmanian court system.
How many?
I have no idea.
I want to know this.
So do I now. I now want to know this, yes. Pearce was hanged in Hobart Town Jail at 9 a.m. on the 19th of July, 2000. 1824.
When he was over 200 years old, thereby setting another record.
Yeah. He received his last rites.
I could have spoken to him. We could have spoken to him.
I know, right?
First can.
He received his last rites from Father Connolly. His last words were reported to be, "Man's flesh is delicious. It tastes far better than fish or pork." But saying that...
Yes.
How much would the media have sensationalised the fact that they were going to hang a cannibal?
Quite possibly there was some artistic license. As soon as you mention whom the topic of today's episode was, I immediately thought of that quote that I read in A History of Bushranging ages ago. I'm so glad it's in your research notes. If they weren't, I was going to bring that up in our discussion at the end.
Which bit?
His final words.
Oh, yeah.
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 Because they're very very iconic, and definitely if there's dramatic license and romanticization going on, then it's definitely a hook for future generations to remember the end of this sordid tale and the execution of the criminal cannibal.
Yeah. So the last thing in my notes that I've got is is the media that has come out of Alexander Pearce's story.
Oh, that was going to be something else I asked you about.
Yeah, there's the Last Confession of Alexander Pearce, which is a biographical movie.
Yes.
Or documentary, whatever it is. It's a biographical look at Alexander Pearce. Dying Breed is a horror story about Alexander Pearce's descendants or something.
Oh, okay. So evil getting passed down the generation.
Yeah, it actually looks really good. It sounds really good. I haven't looked at it, but it sounds really good, and I'd actually like to check it out. And then the more famous biographical movie, which is Van Diemen's Land,
which is on our list of things
I have
to
not
watch.
seen yet. I should have watched it as part of the research for this podcast, but
it would have given you an excuse.
It would have given me an excuse.
Check it out on Stan. There's at least one streaming platform that it's on currently.
Yeah, but to be honest, with trying to catch up with the podcast and everything, I wanted to do one that was maybe a little bit more simple, and a little bit shorter. Like, this will be a shorter episode because there isn't a hell of a lot of detail about what happened.
Yeah. How old are the two former, the first two?
I think they're all within the all within the 2000s.
I know that there has been, that there is a literature about Pearce. There have been biographies. There's, and you'd recommend?
There are biographies and there are books and all that kind of thing. There are quite a few in Australia. So
chapters in histories of Australian bushranging.
Chapters in histories of Australia. Chapters in murders of Australia. I think there's a chapter in Celluloid Serial Killers by Paul B. Kidd, who is a great Australian author of murder and crime.
No, he's very accomplished. That would not surprise me.
I have quite a lot of his books. I think it's in Celluloid Serial Killers. It might be in something else, but I swear it's in one of his books.
You know what was interesting to me? One of the early points in Pearce's early chronology after he arrived in Van Diemen's Land, his offences that stem from drunkenness, because in Australia, of course, we have a long history of, to use a vernacular, getting on the piss, heavy drinking, and in all of the colonies that ended up using convict labour, starting off with New South Wales and Tasmania, the economy was fueled to a great degree by alcohol. It was used as payment, transactions were made in alcohol, and it was used as incentives, rewards. There were normally spirits, rations given out to all levels of society, including convicts. So it's just
more so wealthier, though.
Of course.
But that's the same with anything, though. But drinking, getting, as you said, using the vernacular, getting on the piss in Australia it's part of our culture.
Mm-hmm.
And so is so is convicts. It is part of our culture. We have a beer, I think it is, called 150 Lashes or something.
Yes, we do.
Well, you work in liquor, so.
James Squire, very much.
Yeah. Even 200 years later, we're still celebrating both alcohol and convict heritage.
And the fact that Pearce was Irish, I don't know whether he was a big drinker. Generally, apart from these reported offences, and before he came to Van Diemen's Land and during his life, but that would kind of been feeding into the cycle too in the convict context of the Irish as heavy drinkers as well.
Yeah. The Irish do have a reputation, same as Australians do, of being able to drink people under the table, and it's fair earned, to be honest.
And convict stock and being exploited and, not given a fair deal by the English and whatnot.
Yeah.
That whole sectarian historical context.
Like, we jokingly, like, Dirk's got Scottish in him, but he's majority English.
That's correct.
And we give each other a lot of crap because I'm Celtic with my heritage from my convict heritage, we're Celts.
And Dutch and Scandinavian.
I'm half Dutch from my mum, but on my dad's side, we came over here with the First Fleet. With my
Thomas Gray?
Charles Gray.
Charles Gray, sorry.
Yeah, we came over on the First Fleet with Charles Gray. And he was part of the Grey clan in Scotland. And Dirk was part of the Gordon clan in Scotland. But we just like to give each other crap about it.
Oh, absolutely. A lot of fun.
Yes. I call him a bastard quite often.
And because Syl has got Welsh heritage on the paternal side, I make jokes about him being a sheep shagger and the like.
Okay, well, you're not good.
Because oh no, you didn't!
I had to.
Oh,
You and your pussy English.
And for an international audience too. I don't think it's as well known in Australia as opposed to New Zealand, which has the same reputation, but Wales has a reputation.
Oh, come on. The Kiwis say that we're sheep shaggers, we say that they're sheep shaggers. The English say Welsh are sheep shaggers, the Welsh probably say that English are sheep shaggers.
But in England...
What is it with sheep?
Wales
what makes them a sexy animal?
Is the equivalent for New Zealand in relation to us.
Okay, but what makes sheep such a sexy animal that people want to shag them all the time?
I think it's because of the amount of acreage devoted to pastoral pursuits like sheep, so much of the population being involved in farming, that's their vocation, isolation, more men than women. It's a whole lot of factors.
I'm sorry, sheep are not sexy.
Well,
maybe if you shave their rear ends and put fishnets on them.
I don't know, but I'm just saying. And also, like, it was a popular living commodity in a lot of these contexts too. I mean, we have more sheep than people in this country, for one thing, and that goes back quite a while.
Oh, we do, but we don't have a lot of people here either. Like, we've got one of the biggest continents in the world, and we've got, like, one of the smallest populations of, like, the developing world.
Yeah, because so much of our landmass is not really suited for high-density populations.
No, we're all stuck on the coast.
Yeah.
We're up a mountain, technically, but you know what I mean.
Where'd this all come out of? Oh, yes.
I have no idea.
Giving you stick because...
Because I'm Welsh.
Because you're Welsh. You're a sheep shagger.
Oh, I'm only a little itty-bitty Welsh. I'm an itty-bitty Welsh baby.
I like the Welsh, but anybody listening in Wales right now,
we love Wales, FYI.
Even though we've never been there.
For one, you guys have a dragon on your flag. How much cooler can you get?
And want to go to Ireland too, which is very, very relevant to this.
Well, I want to go and visit all of them. And just go, hey, I'm here. I used to live here. My ancestors.
Was there anything that struck you in particular going through your notes?
I can understand the whole... Can't really understand the whole killing and eating people. I know people have done it in the past, like, in dire circumstances. So, like, I can get that. I can get my head around that. What I can't get my head around... Like, so his first escape, I can get my head around him having to eat his fellow convicts and that. To survive, to get through, and that whole survival of the fittest and shit like that. What I can't get is you kill someone because they don't want to cross a river, yet you keep them on you. And I know I tried to hypothesize why he would have done that earlier, but I still don't get why he would keep the food and then carry on.
Maybe he was going a little mad, so.
Maybe, you would think. Hey, back to that snake poison.
Yep.
I'm sure that'd do something to your brain.
This whole midsection, which are the to use cinematic term, money shots. All of the time spent in the wilderness. It's like a dark prequel to this motif in Australian literature in the late 19th century of children born to civilized parents of white stock. On the video, like Syl was earlier, I'm using bunny quotations.
Funny quotation. Yeah.
Getting lost in the bush, getting lost in the wilderness, away from civilization. So this is a very dark version of that, and it's also got parallels with Grimm's fairy tales and other folklorists. Exactly right. Writing at roughly the same time over in the old world in Europe about dark deeds going on in the forest.
Yeah, and it's like stories like this that give us that whole, forests.
Mm-hmm.
Or wilderness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the other thing that came to mind, really.
Yeah, it just continues that narrative.
Yeah. The civilized being getting frayed and warped and breaking down in the wilderness, in the forest.
Yeah, what was that saying? I heard this saying I saw this saying on Facebook or something. Might have been Instagram.
Mm.
You're not afraid of being alone in the woods. You're afraid of not being alone in the woods.
That's it.
So,
and I wonder if there's any more information about the SKP's interactions with the local Indigenous population, because we're less than a decade away from the final government policies, including the dragnet to round up and contain Tasmania's Indigenous population, and that, of course, led to the pretty much the extinction of thriving Tasmanian Indigenous culture by the late 19th century.
From what I've read, now I didn't get to do as much. I never get to do as much research as I would like to do.
Welcome to life.
Yeah, pretty much. Welcome to life. But from what I had read, they kind of, when he came into the campsite, they just kind of left and let him do what he needed to do, and then he left, and then they came back and went and got more food and whatever.
Yeah.
That's about all I got out of that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we've had fun rambling.
We have certainly had fun rambling.
And we know that this is a bit of a shorter one. We promise that it'll be a bit longer next week. Just trying to get back in the saddle and start getting some content out for you guys.
Thanks for listening.
But thank you for listening. Thank you for downloading. Thank you for dealing with all of our rambling and carry on.
I hope you weren't turned off. You didn't tune out with our long little tangent.
Yes.
About our heritages.
Yeah, and if you could give us a thumbs up or a share or whatever helps the platform that you're watching this on or listening to this on know that we're around, that'll be great.
And don't eat people.
No,
please,
don't eat
for
people.
the love of God, don't eat people.
Don't eat people.
This show does not endorse cannibalism.
Not at all.
No.
Unless you're in a plane in the Andes.
Oh, for God's sakes.
And you're a soccer team. And if you don't get that, maybe look it up.
Well, they were Catholic too, and, they could justify, some of them could justify it in their minds by saying it's the body and blood of Jesus Christ.
Okay, real quick. Soccer team flew into the Andes, big plane crash. They were stuck there for ages. People died, they ate them.
1972.
But they didn't kill them.
No, they were already dead.
Yeah.
So there's
big difference.
There's a loophole, maybe? I don't know.
Big difference.
Yes. Yeah. Don't eat people.
And, don't eat people. Just don't do it.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, bye.
Bye!